In a poor neighborhood, Elijah Carter, a 12-year-old boy, accidentally saves the life of billionaire Damian West's daughter from a traffic accident. In gratitude, Damian helps Elijah's family, giving them a new home and a comfortable life. However, this generosity has strange implications, and Elijah quickly realizes that he and his family are being watched. Nevertheless, he does not stop investigating and discovers Damian's connection to dangerous illegal activities. As the truth comes to light, Elijah is forced to face dangers and unravel dark secrets, but will justice be implemented? Welcome to Kindness Stories, where stories of kindness and courage always bring us faith in life. Today, we will explore together a surprising and touching story about a small but brave boy who changed his life and his family forever. Follow the story of Elijah Carter, a boy who saved the life of a billionaire's daughter, and the mysteries he faced in his journey to find the truth. The sky was gray, the clouds were swirling as if threatening to rain at any moment. In a poor neighborhood of Detroit, where the walls were cracked and old billboards hung crookedly, Elijah Carter was playing basketball with his best friend Zara. Elijah, 12, is small but agile. He wears a faded hoodie and scuffed sneakers. Despite his hard life, Elijah finds joy in the little things, like finding an old clock to fix or making a perfect shot at a homemade basketball hoop behind his house. Guess who will win today? Before Elijah could reply, a scream tore through the air. They both turned to see a petite blonde girl running across the busy street, a small handbag swinging in her hand. In the distance, a black SUV was speeding towards her, its tires screeching on the dusty road. "Oh my God, she's going to get stabbed," Zara screamed, grabbing Elijah's hand in horror. But the boy didn't hesitate. Elijah shot out into the street like a bolt of lightning. He shoved the girl to the other side of the sidewalk just as the SUV slammed on its brakes, making a deafening sound. Elijah fell hard to the pavement, his knees scraped and bleeding. The driver stepped out, his face pale with fear. He was a tall man with silver hair, wearing an expensive suit. He rushed to the girl and hugged her, his voice trembling. "Sophie, are you okay?" Little Sophie sobbed, pointing at Elijah. "Uncle, he saved me." The man turned to Elijah, his eyes a mixture of gratitude and surprise. "Are you okay? God, you're so brave. What's your name?" "Elijah," the boy replied, struggling to stand. Zara ran over and helped him brush the dirt off his clothes. "You saved my daughter's life," the man said, his voice thick with emotion. "I'm Damian West. You have no idea what a great thing you just did." Elijah scratched his head, confused. "I just did what needed to be done." People gathered around, talking excitedly. Some took video, and before long the event was making local news. Elijah had no idea that his heroic act would change his life forever. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the small window of the Carter family's old apartment. Elijah woke up with a sore knee, but he was used to dealing with minor injuries. "Mom, I'm going to the junkyard to get some repair parts," he said, stuffing the toolbox into his tattered backpack. But before Elijah could get out the door, the sound of an engine outside startled the family. Elijah opened the window and saw a convoy of luxury cars parked in front of the house. The lead car was a shiny black limousine, so luxurious that it almost didn't belong in this neighborhood. Damian West stepped out of the limousine, dressed in an impeccable suit. He was followed by two men in black suits, each holding a briefcase. The man knocked on the door, and when Elijah's mother, Mary Carter, opened it, she couldn't hide her confusion. "Mrs. Carter," Damian said, his voice warm but authoritative. "I am Damian West. I believe you have heard about your son saving my daughter yesterday." Mary nodded, too surprised to speak. Her husband James emerged from the living room, his eyes suspicious. "We don't need anything, sir," James said quickly, his voice calm. "Elijah is only doing the right thing." No, "I can't just leave this as thanks," Damien replied, smiling. "I want to help your family. I've arranged a new home for you just outside the city. No need to worry about rent or expenses. I'll take care of everything." If both Mary and James were stunned. "What are you talking about? We can't afford such a luxury," Mary stammered. Damien raised his hand, signaling to stop him. "This isn't charity. This is my way of showing gratitude. Consider this an opportunity for Elijah and his family. This house is spacious, clean, and a better environment for your children to grow up in." Elijah stood back, watching everything with a strange feeling. He was not used to big promises, and even less used to the idea of living in a beautiful house. "Can we think about this first?" James asked, still not entirely convinced. "Of course," Damien said, pulling out a business card. "But I hope the family will take this as a sincere thank you from the bottom of my heart." 2 days later, the Carters agreed to move into their new home. As they drove through the old neighborhood into the suburbs, Elijah couldn't believe his eyes. Their new home had a large lawn, a private garage, and brand new furniture. Elijah walked into his new bedroom, which had a comfortable bed, a desk, and a large window overlooking the garden. Zara stopped by to visit, her mouth agape as she saw the house. "You really hit the jackpot, Eli," Zara exclaimed. Ella Sweepin glanced around. "Yeah," Elijah replied, but he couldn't deny the uneasiness that was simmering inside him. He didn't know why, but there was something about Damien West that he didn't quite trust. That evening, as the family sat around the elegant dining table, Elijah noticed a security camera installed in the corner of the house. He asked his parents, but they just said it was a safety measure that Damien had arranged. Elijah nodded, but once again his unease grew. Little did he know that these miracles were just the beginning of a dangerous chain of events that was about to unfold. The longer Elijah lived in his new home, the more uncomfortable he felt. The luxuries around him could not hide the unease inside him. The Carters seemed to have nothing to complain about in their new life. They didn't have to pay rent, the house was clean and comfortable, and his parents both had more stable jobs. However, it felt like an invisible net was tying their lives together, and Elijah couldn't break free. Rosewood Academy, a private school, Elijah felt completely out of place. His classmates were all well off, well dressed, and sometimes they gave him looks that told him he didn't belong. Still, he tried to study hard, not letting the whispers behind his back affect him. One evening when Elijah came home, he found his parents talking in the living room. They were discussing the contracts Damien had asked them to sign. A sheet of paper with strange clauses was placed on the table, including clauses that guaranteed the Carter family. His father, James, was still skeptical, but Mary looked relieved when she saw the numbers glistening on the paper. "We don't need to worry anymore, James. Damien has done so much for our family. He has provided us with a better life," Mary said, but her tone was more convincing to herself than to her husband. James looked at the paper, an annoyed look on his face. "I just don't like these conditions. It seems like he's trying to control everything," he said. Elijah stood silently in the doorway, listening to everything. The uneasiness he had been feeling all along grew. Soon, Damien's surveillance began to become more apparent. One morning, Elijah noticed a strange car parked outside the house. It wasn't Damien's, but it seemed to be following them. He had seen these cars before, but this time they stopped for longer than usual. Elijah decided to follow the car from a distance, but as soon as he stepped out of the house, the car sped away as if it knew he was paying attention. When he returned home, he happened to see a man dressed in black standing in front of the house, holding a large camera. He recognized this as one of the employees that Damien had sent. The man did not say anything, just nodded slightly when he saw him, and quickly got into the car parked on the side of the road. Elijah feels something is very wrong. He thought Damien's help was an unconditional gift, but now he is beginning to realize that perhaps he is watching and controlling his family's every move. Scream 5, pilots playing as Damien. Elijah decides he can't stay silent anymore. He can't live under such close surveillance without knowing what he's getting himself into. Together with Zara, his only close friend who's always by his side, Elijah sets out to find out more about Damien West and what he's up to. Zara was quick to research online. As soon as Elijah told her about his suspicions, she immediately started looking up everything she could about Damien West. What she found surprised both of them. Damien is not only a well-known billionaire, but he has also been involved in a number of financial scandals, including real estate market manipulation and money laundering through fake charity projects. Old newspaper articles that Zara found show that he has suspicious connections in politics and criminal organizations, although all of them are very well hidden. Elijah's confusion grew when he discovered a disturbing detail. One of Damien's subsidiaries was affiliated with a security company, the same one his family was using to protect their new home. All the security cameras around the house were not installed by an independent company, but by Damien West's company, which only reinforced his belief that the Carters' every move was being monitored. Instead, with evidence in hand, Elijah and Zara decided to take action. They sneaked into the storage room on the property, where they suspected Damien was hiding some important documents. Although they had to be careful, Elijah and Zara's determination helped them find a hard drive containing many confidential documents about Damien's shady activities. That evening, when everything was quiet, Elijah held the hard drive in his hand and looked at Zara. "This is the final evidence. We have to get this stuff out." But they didn't know that Damien had discovered their every move. Just as Elijah had feared, Damien had been watching their every move. The next morning, when the Carter family woke up, they found Damien's car parked in front of the house. Not a help, but a clear threat. Damien stepped out of the car, a sheaf of papers in his hand. "I don't think you understand," he said, his voice low and cold. "If you want to keep this a secret, you'd better stop all your actions. Otherwise, you'll be left with nothing." Elijah senses danger in the air. He knows there is no turning back now. He must fight to protect his family and expose the truth about Damien West, even if it means facing dangers he can't even imagine. "You can't control us anymore, Damien," Elijah replied firmly. "We will tell the truth, no matter what you do." Damien said nothing more. He turned and walked back into the car, anger in his eyes. Both Elijah and Zara knew that this war had only just begun, and it would be much more dangerous. The next day, everything seemed to be in chaos. The Carter family was being watched more closely than ever. Strange cars continued to appear outside their home, and he felt the menace of Damien West like a ghost looming over them. Elijah knew that if he didn't act now, his family would be in for a much worse fate. He couldn't continue living under this kind of control. Zara, the only friend who has always stood by him, keeps encouraging Elijah to do the right thing. "We can't let him go on like this. You can't let your family be held captive by these secrets anymore," Zara says as they sit in the living room discussing their next steps. With the documents in hand, Elijah knew this was their only chance to break the silence. They decided to meet with Miguel Lopez, a renowned investigative reporter who had worked on some of the biggest cases, to expose the shady dealings of the tycoons. Miguel was a man of influence, and if anyone could help them, it was him. Elijah and Zara met Miguel in a deserted coffee shop where no one would recognize them. Miguel listened to Elijah's story, then looked over the documents he had brought. He nodded, his eyes sharp. "This is the proof I need. Damien West is not an easy man to catch, but if these documents are made public, he will not be able to escape, Miguel said, his voice filled with determination. The next day, the first article appeared in major newspapers. The headline read in bold, "Billionaire Damien West and his dark operations. The long-hidden truth." The article detailed the illegal activities that Damien had been involved in for years, from manipulating the real estate market, to laundering money through fake charities, to controlling families through his goodwill. The documents that Elijah and Zara had found exposed it all. The town couldn't believe what they were reading. Some were outraged to discover that Damien had used his kindness to build a power empire and profit from the vulnerable. The videos Elijah and Zara had collected were also made public, showing the surveillance and coercion the Cotter family had endured. The authorities immediately began to act. Police raided Damien West's mansion the next morning, and within hours he was arrested. The documents Elijah and Zara provided were irrefutable evidence. Damien was charged with a variety of crimes, from corruption to financial crimes and fraud. Yes, that's right. She was taking too long on the block. When the Carter family heard the news, they were stunned. Mary and James could not believe that the man they thought was their benefactor was a criminal. However, they also felt a strange sense of relief, knowing that the truth had finally come out. Elijah, despite his youth, felt proud that he had stood up and done the right thing, even though it meant putting himself at risk. The Carter family's life gradually returned to normal. They no longer had to live under Damien's watch, nor did they have to face threats from the underground. However, the consequences of exposing the truth were not easy. The Carter family faced many new difficulties, especially when they had to find a normal life after what had happened. But regardless, Elijah felt a sense of justice and a sense that he had done the right thing. One morning, as Elijah sat by the window looking out at the lush green garden, he realized that sometimes doing the right thing is not just a choice, but a responsibility. He helped his family and those around him regain their freedom. Although the road ahead is long, he believes that things will get better because he chose to stand up for the truth. Zara sat beside him, smiling. "You did it, Elijah. People will remember you for what you did. This was meant to be." Elijah nodded, smiling softly. He knew that while his family would never be the same, at least they had started a new life, a freer life, without the shadow of Damien West. And to him, that was what mattered most. Thank you for watching the inspiring story of Elijah Carter. Despite the great challenges he faced, he proved that courage and truth always win. Hopefully, this story will give you the strength to do the right thing, no matter how difficult the road. If you love this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss out on the next interesting videos. Always remember, every small action of ours can make a big difference in life.